Oh, hello there. Welcome to Midnight Chow. Ah! Got my commo dude, Troy Schmidt, in the studio, not in the studio,
Virtual
virtually,
studio.
virtual studio. What's going on, man?
Another day, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. Let's get started. Tell me about what got you in the Army in the first place.
What got me in the Army? I was I had no direction. I was living with my grandmother, four kids. She basically raised us. I was the oldest, and we were pretty young, and I really didn't have a direction. Um, so I ended up hanging out with some kids who I shouldn't have hung out with, and got in trouble in school. Not directly, but it was guilty by association kind of stuff. Um, Nothing bad, just got kicked out of school. So I ended up going to a military school for youth. Um, it was called Hawaii National Guard Youth Challenge Academy, and you basically board there for 6 months, um, just like ROTC, except you're board. You board there. There's males and females. They're all separated, of course, and then you basically, finish out high school. You have the option of graduating early or going back to school, if you want. And I didn't want to. And then it provided that structure. I liked it. The organization, it taught me everything I really didn't know about, as a young adult, and I should have been learning. But I graduated there. I was 17, and I went down to the recruiter's office and looked into joining, and they told me to come back with my guardian. So I went and got my grandma, and she signed me up in 2003.
Which go to basic?
July, um, went to basic Fort Knox, Kentucky. I left July 2000 or July 29th, 2003. So I flew out of Pearl Harbor, MEP station, um, and pretty sure just like everybody's, basic training started, it was late at night and or early in the morning, dark right on base, and everything was dark, so I couldn't see Kentucky for what it was, Fort Knox area, and it was pretty crazy. I didn't know that it was a combat arms per se, or majority, combat arms basic training um, for the scouts and tankers. Uh, my basic training, there was two other support guys, and everybody else was tankers or scouts. And we didn't find that out until we graduated. Everyone was shipping off to OSIT, and then um, our orders were for AIT, Advanced Individual Training. And I went to Fort Gordon after, um, can't remember how long it was back in 2003, but um, basic training, we finished, we had the graduation day. And then shortly after that, I think we had 24 hours before we shipped off to AIT. And I did AIT in Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Is that
Uh,
mostly classroom?
oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you got your formation stuff, and there's very little. I mean, unless you were, screw up, very little over the shoulders type stuff. You show up for formation, do what you got to do, pass your PT test. Um, you're good to go. You go to, they called it the schoolhouse, and then once you were done with that, uh, you basically could do whatever you want, do whatever you wanted until next formation time.
Could you
That
go off
was
post and stuff?
oh, what?
Could you go off post and stuff?
Um, yeah, you could go off post. They had phases. I don't. It might have been like red, white, and blue. Um, and as you progress through your school, your schooling, your AIT, you got higher and higher tiers, and then you could go off post for the weekends, and it was pretty chill, considering basic training was pretty crazy. I mean, it was fun, but it was just I was a commo guy, so I was expecting, commo shit.
Right.
And I didn't see none of that till, I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia. So that was 16 weeks. I was a holdover for about 2 or 3 weeks. My original orders from Fort Gordon, Georgia were, I believe it was Wainwright, Alaska. And I just freaked out, I really hadn't messed with snow at all. I mean, I've seen it, been in it a couple times, but um, I was like, they want us low crawling and, doing all kinds of stuff in the snow. And I was like, nah, I'm a tropical guy. So I went to the place where they cut orders, and I basically got turned around. They were like, now you're going to go. I was just waiting to ship out. I basically showed up for formation in the mornings, did group PT for about an hour, hour and a half, and shined boots and press uniforms for about 3 weeks before I ended up going to Germany instead. That was in 2000 and I want to say early 2000, or no, it would have been late 2003, going into 2004, because I was in Germany for the first time process.
What base in Germany?
It's called Baumholder. It was nicknamed the Rock. It was basically on this hilltop. It's a round little hilltop that always caught snow and rain, and it was probably no bigger than, remember our AO in the back, the airfield?
But Butts in Colorado?
Yeah, Butts, Colorado, like that whole area. It was probably no bigger than that. And I got there and everybody was deployed already. I ended up, my unit was 1st Armored Division. I ended up getting attached to HHB, Division Artillery. So, they were in control of the big guns. And that's where I started training up. I was probably there for it was a few months, because like I said, it was rear D. So we just showed up for a guard, not guard, but fire guard and CQ whenever, you had CQ, and show up for a few formations, and then that was basically your job, and then you go off post whenever, you wanted to, as long as you made formations, the weekends. Traveled a lot all over Europe. Was a blast. It was Germany was that duty station that the recruiters played off to everybody, and I ended up getting that actual, the winning ticket. So I didn't realize that until I left to Carson. But I never deployed out of Germany. I did volunteer twice, because it was first ID at the time. I think it was. I can't remember what unit besides first ID, and they needed volunteers. So everyone on rear D, talked about it, and they really didn't, not a lot of people signed up, put their name on the list. I think I was maybe a handful out of at least 50 guys.
What
Guys and girls.
What motivated you to volunteer to deploy?
I don't know if it was just the way that they, the word came down that they needed people. It wasn't much information. They put out that they needed communications guys, and my job was the official title was communications signal specialist, or communications or signal systems communications specialist. Supposedly, like jack of all trades, anything with you can send a signal through, type on it, text on it, you know, from a computer to remember the huge satellites that they used to tow on trailers. You know, we could be placed anywhere in the brigade to operate, any of those things. But I had only been in, HHB, um, so I knew nothing of the line, and but sorry to skip ahead or skip back. When I volunteered, like I said, just because they needed somebody, and that's kind of why I joined in the first place. I needed direction. I liked the JRTC direction um, that I experienced, from the youth academy, and that's what I signed up to do.
So what happened then?
Um, they told me I had 72 hours. I packed up, had two giant green duffel bags and an Alice pack, the old school, green green rucksacks, and then probably within 24 hours of being packed, I get word that they don't need anybody. So this was after I called my family at the time and let them know. So emotions are up, down, up, down. Then probably 24 hours, not even 24 hours after, I got word to stand down. Um, they said wheels up again. So I grabbed all my shit again, prepped everything just like it was maybe not even 12 hours before. And probably the day I was supposed to leave, if not the night before, word comes in that or the unit got orders to come back. So I never ended up going. We basically helped everybody redeploy, and they went on leave. We were still doing our rare D thing. It, this probably 60 days, maybe 90 days had passed before everybody like officially came back, from leave, or they PCS'd, or went to different units or schools or whatever it was. But I remember coming back, and had had an option to reenlist, and I went down to the recruiter's office. And they're like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, what are my options?" This was back when there really wasn't too many options. I think the max signing bonus was like $5,500, and that was a good one. So I had choice of duty station. So I was like, okay. I asked about a bunch of different, bases, and then Fort Carson came up. I knew it was Colorado. I didn't know anything about Fort Carson, but I knew at the time, I believe it was either the first or the second choice of duty station in the Army. And I heard that, and I kind of just went with it. So I signed up for another 4 years in Germany, and then PCS to Fort Carson. And by this time, it was late 2005, uh, early 2006. So
What unit did you go down to?
I originally I processed into a BSB, and I don't remember what number it was. I just remember it was a BSB that picked me up, and from the airport. I am processed. I think at the time it was like a week's time of in processing, maybe 2 weeks. And then they took you to your unit. And I finished training or in processing. And then probably a few days after a long weekend, they're like, hey, grab your stuff. Everyone's leaving. So initially you make friends with whoever you in process with, or, you guys kind of shoot the shit and figure out what's what. But we did that. Everyone that was there was cool, and then we started branching off to our other units, and I ended up going to Delta Troop, but they were, I believe, they were still part of the BSB at the time. They weren't part of 361 yet. That was because they were second ID, second Infantry Division, the Indian Head Patch, and they had a weird deployment. They were like on deployment from Korea, then deployed to Iraq, and then moved to Fort Carson. That's where I met up with them. But so it was really weird. Like everybody was processing back as as I was in processing. So like a lot of people were out, doing their own thing around leave, transitioning. When that settled down, probably train up started. Yeah, I'd say train up. Everyone getting getting gear, getting everything set up. To start training again.
And how much dwell time did you have before you deployed?
I want to say a few months. It must have been at least 4 or 5 months, because I know we went to Pinyon Canyon. We did a full rotation, or excuse me, the first deployment we went to Iraq. So we prepped in Pinyon Canyon, and then we ended up going to NTC to train up for Iraq. That was in California, Death Valley, that little training center, I think National Training Center or whatever it is. And maybe a month or two after that, everyone takes leave, and then we deploy to Iraq.
Where'd you get stationed in Iraq?
Iraq, I got stationed in Fob Restamaya. It was a big base. Like, it wasn't like, it was like Bostic, if I had to compare sizes, but maybe a little bigger than Bostic, but I was with Delta Troop at the time, when they got attached to 361, and our mission was resupply and op security at the time, because we were support unit. I didn't get to Bravo Troop until they lost Fuller and Balsley. I don't know if it was in correlation, but that's when I went over there, because I remember it was really awkward. I didn't know, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I knew someone had passed. I didn't know the story, but then I, find out a few days later, probably not even a few days, maybe just 1 day later.
Was one of those guys the commo guy?
No. That's what made it weird. Originally, they said I was going to help the guy out. For whatever reason, he was falling behind on his job or not doing it. So I was tasked to help him, and I don't remember his name, but once I went down there and basically took over his combo shop, I didn't see him again. So I don't know. Like I said, if it had correlation to that, I don't know if he just, what the issue was, had an emergency, or I got wind that he couldn't hack it after. So I don't know. It could have been hearsay, but and then that's when I took over.
So what was your job at Black Knight Troop?
At Black Knight Troop, it was still a communications guy.
What's it?
But
I mean,
I was doing,
what's it like at the troop level?
oh, at the troop level, for a commo guy or just troop level in general?
For your job at troop level?
It's a lot of accountability, as well as maintaining, every single radio, whether that's man pack radio, personal radio, radios in the vehicles, radios in the talk, any computer systems. You know, basically, like I said earlier, anything with a signal, a printer. You know, um, if it had a current through it, I was probably signed for it. So, um, but when I got to them, I was fixing. I remember fixing truck after truck after truck. You know, issue after issue, and um, it just seemed like it never stopped. You know, like my shop was open 24/7. Scout, you know, guys will wake me up. Hey, Schmidt, truck's down. You know, right before they roll out on mission, and you know, whatever it was, I'd change it out or change it out after they got back. You know, um, any you know anything you can think of, like that happens to electronics, and you know they fail at the the best time you need them. That was the case. You know, that was that was that
That's
was
the
the
way it always
problem.
goes.
Yeah.
Radio will work
But
fine up until 10 minutes before you're about to roll out the gate.
yep, and then it's chaos. um, so I did that for a few months, as well as top guard, and after that, that's when I started rolling out with them.
So you were the
At,
commander's gunner?
I was no at this time we headquarters platoon. Um, I want to say we only had three. I think we had three trucks at the time, and we needed a fourth. So it was. I want to say he was his Sergeant Bennett. He was. I want to say he was gone by the time you got there. He was the FO E6. He ended up being the TC, and then uh, I believe it was Hunt. I don't know if you met Hunt.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
he was.
I vaguely remember Bennett. You're a bigger guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He got out quickly, shortly after I got to the unit, but yeah, I remember him.
yeah, it was me. Bennett was the truck commander, and then Hunt was the driver. And then um, either it was me in the gunner's seat or I was in the back rolling, because in case anything commo wise went down. And it wasn't all the time. Um, it was more because at the time I want to say they were providing a lot of security. I don't know their exact mission, but I remember we did a lot of security patrols, mounted and dismounted, a lot of cordon and searches, and there was this college that we used to have to patrol by because there was like a Westerners college. Like it was really weird. Only fucking Western college, in our AO, surrounded by, everyone that hated them. And it was, for whatever reason, our job to, go by there sometimes and then, make sure everything's good. And that's what we did. That was, that was, well, it kind of sucked because that was a 15-month deployment. We got word about halfway through, I want to say, that we were being extended. This is when the surge happened, and I don't recall how many soldiers they were flying over, but it was like a huge thing. Um, they were slapping stop loss and everybody. They were calling units back to Iraq when they were already home, or they just got home. Um, it was pretty crazy. Uh, the FRG ended up letting us know before the unit did. Yeah, it was crazy. Um, that was probably my first experience, like being on the line, but it was nothing compared to a BSB or a support unit's role. Obviously, it shouldn't be, but um, because it's two different, totally different missions. But
So
I had to.
what
What's that?
do you what else did you on like patrols and stuff?
Um, On patrols, I would just carry a man-pack radio and honestly be another guy. I'd stay by the commander or whoever I rolled out with, and basically picked up from there because nobody, you know, I didn't know any scout terminology, I didn't know nothing. I just, you know, I knew I was a good shot. I knew how to do my job, and I figured I'd figure things out as they went, and that's what I did.
Okay, so coming back from that deployment, when was that, and what was that like?
Coming back was the first deployment, man. It was well, that 15 months never felt so long, man. Like I said, I want to say we were maybe at the halfway point, or maybe a little before, or a little after, give or take. And it was just like a gut punch. Like you're sick. You're like, oh man. And but when we made it back, it was like I think I kissed the ground. Honestly, I think I was excited. Because there were a few times when I didn't think I'd make it back. So, I was just excited. I had my little girl during deployment, so but we came back. There was a big ceremony in the can't remember what gym it was, but we did our little standard formation, and I think the commander or the person in charge of rear D gives us a welcome home brief, and then you're gone for the weekend or 48 hours, and then you come back, you start signing out on leave. Or it only took a few days after you got back to get the papers and get everything squared away. That way you were on leave. But leave was awesome, man.
To go back to Hawaii?
No, at this time we were pretty much settled in Colorado, and I think we just staycationed. Went and maybe visited a few of her family, or my ex-wife's family at the time, and then just relaxed. But I want to, like I said, that one was weird because second ID had, they went from Korea to Iraq to Fort Carson, then Iraq. That was when I joined them. That was my first tour. And so when we got back from that, it was like nobody gave a fuck. Like the unit had been through so much movement, like, because families were moving from, from place to place to place. And then, so it felt like it took a good few months before everyone started reporting back to their unit,
And then shortly after that, the reflag to 4-4, right?
Yeah. I don't know how long it was, but it was we reflagged, and then I want to say we started train up right after that. Or no, you weren't with us at the time, were you?
I was in that formation, the reflag formation.
Yeah, see, all that stuff is a blur.
I think it was like early summer 2008 when the reflag happened. No, it was hot as fuck.
There was a few formations ceremonies where I remember people like passing out because it was so hot,
Yeah.
So it could have been one of those, but yeah, we reflagged and then started, training. I was still with Black Knight at the time because generally they try and swap out, line guys, just so that way they can move them up to have a different experience or move them to a different type of unit. And that never happened. So instead of going to Delta, I ended up staying with Black Knight. And that was the first time that I had actually went through, training how you guys went through training.
So what was the train up for? When did you find out you were going to Afghanistan next?
Mm, well, we knew Afghanistan. I'm trying to remember. We just didn't know where. So obviously the conditions for the train up were a little different. We didn't go to NTC this time. We still went to Pinyon Canyon, that shithole, and then GRTC. That was down in Louisiana. But the tempo was it was either you're out in the field, either in the back of Carson, um, weapons ranges, ruck marching all the time. Get it basically. I can't remember what they're called. The scout drills. Remember the little. Mm,
I don't remember what they're called.
I think tables. They were like something tables. Like
Yeah, I didn't really do a lot of scout training. I didn't come down the line until a couple weeks before we deployed.
oh well, they would do like their little scout tables. You're in full gear and you got to hump somebody on a stretcher. So far up a little hill, then you got to call on a 9-line. Drills just to make sure everyone's firing on all cylinders. There's a lot of it. So, and I'd probably say when we found out about Afghanistan, I think it was Kurt that was there, wasn't it? There was somebody in.
Kurt
Was it?
been in the not Keating itself, but in the general vicinity on a previous deployment. And
Yeah. Yeah, it was I remember in Black Knight in the back of our AO, they sat everybody down just for like a troop meeting, like we normally did. And I think it was Captain Porter at the time. Yeah, Captain Porter. He was putting out the information, and then I think it was Kurt that said, "Yeah, that place is fucking a shithole," and he was telling his stories, and then they got quiet, because that's when it got real, because I believe when that happened, um, right up the road, well, about 10 miles up the road or something like that, 10
Yeah.
clicks. So, I started looking into that, and then, I found it. I was like, oh shit, this is getting real. And training got real from there too. You could tell like the tempo was different, from training up before then till finding out, and then it was like people took training a lot more serious. But it was probably had to be no more than 3 months maybe before, or from the time that we found out. Maybe 5 at most. So, because when you came back from Iraq or Afghanistan, you were generally with 361, you were generally gone within 12 months tops for another deployment. So, everything was, you go on leave, train up, you go on leave, come back, get your gear, train, go on leave again, and then, you're flying out to, it was Afghanistan at this point.
So what was that deployment process like for you?
The deployment process for Afghanistan that time, well, that was my first trip. It was very similar to Iraq. Instead of landing in Kuwait and spending like a week there, you landed in, I think it was Kyrgyzstan. So like
Manus Air Force Base?
yeah, that was and that was a Air Force deployment base, and one of the nicest bases I've seen, you know.
It was freaking Disneyland.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. And you know, but we in process there. Uh that's when I met a lot of Red Platoon. I think ended up that's where I met Gallegos, Mace.
Jammed in those big giant tents.
Yeah, yeah.
The Marines and the Air Force were living in like hotels, and then the Army guys were like off in the corner in tents.
Oh yeah, you could tell. They like wanted no part of us. They're like, you can stay over here.
Yeah.
Because they could drink and everything.
Oh
Like
yeah. They had bars
yeah,
there and stuff on post.
yeah. It was definitely one of those things where experiences may vary. We were there, so we were there for about a week to a week and a half, and then you do your briefs and you know all that stuff, and then probably I want to say a few days after that, a few days after the initial like or checking in and everything. Um, it wasn't Advon, but it was main body. I was supposed to get off from Kyrgyzstan, catch 3 flights, and then end up in Biop. But when I left, I caught all three and kept going to Keating. They're like, no, don't get off. So I was like, all right. I only had my backpack with me at the time because my duffel bag was loaded with everybody else and strapped down because I was supposed to get off at Biop. Well, not Biop.
Program.
No. Um, no, I went from CAF to BAF to Bostic, and then from Bostic to Keating all in one night. I was supposed to get off in Biop.
So you went from Manis to Bagram to Jaff to Boston.
Wait, no, that's
Okay.
fucked up. It was BAF, Bostic, Keating. That's what it was. And
Wait, hold on. Well, let's get our story straight here. I'm gonna cut this out, but
yeah,
you fly a C-17 from Manis to Bagram, and then Bagram you took a C-130 to Jaff, Jalalabad, because I had an airfield, and then you
that's
went
what it
took a
was. That's
chopper
what it
up
was.
to Boston, and you did all that in one day.
Um, yeah, because I remember not sleeping. Uh, it was horrible. Like
Damn, 'cause we got
I was
stuck for
so
like a week at each of those spots, almost a week. They gave us a bunch of bullshit briefings at Bagram.
yeah. I didn't do it a lot of those. I did very minimal. They were trying to get me through. Yeah. Well, like I said, I was trying to get to Bostic, and I had that gray trifold um, backpack that they gave us.
I got a gray
But
one too, and then the LT stole it. Gave me his camera,
oh man,
bastard.
but I had a uniform in there. You know, I was smart enough to at least do that, and then I got my shit at Keating like a few days later. So
So you were one of the first guys on there, huh?
no, I wasn't. It was Advon. I was a few days. I was in between Advon and main body one.
Interesting. Yeah, so I think I was on the first main body. I think Stan and a couple like the NCOs went on Advon, like all the E6s and up.
Yeah, because for headquarters they sent supply. Um, supply. I don't know if Chapel went. I know for sure supply went because they had to do hand receipt shit. But I was supposed to get my hand receipt there and you know verify everything before getting up to Keating because they had a split inventory and that never happened. So I just ended up signing for everything that was at Keating.
So what was your first couple days of Keating like?
Mm, first couple of days was like you know a little bit of shock. When we flew in, it was dark, so um, I don't know if did you watch the movie yet?
Yeah,
Remember the opening scene when they're flying through the mountains?
yeah.
Like that shit got my hands sweaty and my fucking heart rate going because I was sitting on the tail, and I just remember looking out, and like we were above the clouds, and we just kept going, and I was like, how far up are we going? And then we landed. You couldn't hear anything because the helicopter's so loud, and then it takes off after everybody gets off, and then you hear the river, you know, like the little rapids that were right next to us, and then you couldn't see anything but maybe like little, you could see stars and stuff, but you couldn't tell like terrain features and everything. I mean, besides, like you could see that a silhouette was there, you just couldn't see the detail. And then when we woke up the next morning, I remember getting up to smoke a cigarette, and I just like looked around and uh, like my neck was looking straight up, like it was crazy. I was like, aren't we supposed to be up top? And then it was one of those things like you're already there, so like what can you do about it?
So not much.
And then I remember the first few days, the rockets started coming in, and like they were hitting the generators. And I remember, you remember, this was before Jacobs got hit, Sergeant Jacobs. It was one of the times where the unit, it must have been left seat, right seats, because the unit was still there, and we lost all power. They hit the generator, and it was, what was that alley by the chow hall? That
I know what you're talking about.
That rock face that was right there, and we were taking contact from. Yeah, they were shooting down that alley, and that was the only place I could get signal from my my tactical satellite.
Yeah.
Because I had a little man pack on me. I would always carry a little man pack set up, and they're like, "Hey, we need comms up," and I'm moving this little soda can satellite looking antenna out while fucking bullets are flying both ways in and out, and I'm shaking, like trying to do my job, and I'm looking up, I'm looking at other people shooting, and and then I'm like, hello, I'm not even using radio protocol at the time. And then I guess I got whatever, I hit the satellite at one point because comms came in like that, and they're like, oh, good job. And then it's like, shit. That's when I kind of knew my job was going to be hectic, because I think after, I don't know how many antennas and wires I replaced just that time we were there. Like they would either be hit by shrapnel or they had bullet holes in them, and
Yeah, they kept you busy, huh?
Yeah, that was my job, to make sure everybody was still talking. The security cameras. I would have Dixon. Remember Dixon, the supply guy?
Yeah, I do.
He would be my security. I don't know. It was between him and Chapel. They would both be my security. Well, I would be on the roofs replacing, wires and antennas, and they would just, watch me in case something happened, because nobody was outside during the day except, people in the gun trucks.
Did you anything pop off while you were standing on the roof?
A few times. There was, you could tell it was, obviously it wasn't a good shot, but you could tell like he was trying to zero. I think there was a couple times where, I remember one time, I think I was in the back of your guys' building, and you guys were talking about it. You're like, yeah, listen, and then you hear the gunshot off in the distance, and then you hear like the impact somewhere, and they would just like do that all the time.
Yeah, there was one guy up on the putting green who would just shooting to the base, like once every 5 minutes or so?
Yeah. There was a few times when I wouldn't take my weapon on the roof just so I could hop off fast, because like I had to. There really wasn't ladders, so like you had to hop from building to building to get onto another roof, and or through a doorway. So um, you know, my weapon would it would generally be next to me, but if it's not slung on you and a bullet lands next to you, you're gonna fucking get cover, or you might not grab it. So that's what I had Dixon and Chapel there for. So
So near the end of that, the tournament, Keating, you go home on leave.
yeah, um, my I get word from the Red Cross. My grandmother passes, and it was a pretty quick process. When I got the word, they said that I had to be ready when the birds came, otherwise I wasn't going home. And my last guard shift was with SCUSA, probably a week before that happened. Probably, yeah, probably a week before that happened, because I remember we were on guard. We were talking just to stay awake, and he was like, "Oh, you'll be good, You'll go home, you'll see your kids, and then you'll come back refreshed." Considering the situation, my grandmother had passed, but he was telling me how when his grandfather passed, it was a big staple in his life. So he was kind of just comforting me. And then I said, "All right, man." Gave him a hug, shook his hand, said, "See you when I get back." And then a few days later, I see on CNN that it didn't say what uh, unit. It just kind of showed the map in the general area, and I was like, "Shit, that's around us." So I end up calling Rear D, and Sergeant Jacobs answered the phone. This was, I don't know how long after he got hit from the B-10, but he was on Rear D. He picked up the phone, and like, "Hey," um, he was like, "What's going on? You're not coming back?" He was like, he was just trying to joke, mess around, and I said, "No." I was laughing, and I was like, "No, I'm trying to find out. I saw that thing on CNN. Is that us? Is that any of our guys?" And then he goes, "I can't say anything." And then I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, I'm on leave. I just want to know, my grandmother, had passed. Just let me know. I don't want to go back in the country and then, or find out later when I got you on the phone." And all he said was, "Yeah, that was our guys." And I really didn't know the specifics. First person I wrote when I found out was SCUSA. I wrote SCUSA. I wrote Frunk. I wrote Griffin. It was like down the list. Everybody that I had deployed with before, that was still in the unit, and then I think everything was still in commo blackout, because nobody ended up getting a hold of me until um, I want to say either right before I started flying back. So I think it was Frunk that told me, and he let me know everything, and I just didn't believe it. But I in process back, or I start the whole process of coming back to country, and then um, I think I saw. I don't remember seeing who. Who I don't remember their name, but I remember they basically told me, they confirmed everything, and then I was kind of just like, all right. Well,
What was that? Go ahead.
no, I honestly didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't know whether you guys were still up there because I remember packing up, because we were supposed to be closing. And then, all that got put on hold because the fucking dude that went AWOL.
What was his name? Oh, Bo Bergdahl. That dude.
Yeah. Yeah. All the assets that were helping us move and close down basically got pulled to look for that guy. And slowed down everything. So I didn't know what the situation was, and then I ended up flying back and meeting everybody in Bostic again, and that's where I, linked back up with you guys.
So what was that like?
It was different, man, because you could see just you know I don't know how to put words to it, but you can like tell, you could just see everyone was drained. Um, but yet it was like everyone was, happy, you know. Everybody that I saw, smiled, gave me a hug. I told them, I was like, hey, good to see you. Glad you made it. And then I think after that,
Right
I
back,
mostly did do what?
right back to work.
Yeah, because I had to sign for everything at Bostic now. I had to. We didn't have operating vehicles. Well, with radio systems in there, like the whole head mic and Duke systems and all that stuff. So I basically got an inventory of a troop's worth of communications equipment. Um, so my mission was to basically make sure that all you guys' vehicles and stuff were ready to go at all times. And once that happened, I started rolling out more with the gunner or the commander as a gunner, uh, Captain
Operations
Captain
at
Porter.
Bostic were pretty much route clearance at that point, right?
Yeah, it was route clearance. It was going to checkpoint lines down a lot, and then I remember Z shade draw. I don't remember like going past it too much because was it Cold Blood? They had that side of the AO or that side of the route. So I mean, unless we were going to like Cold Blood's, their base, or was it, who was it that had a little that ran Lions Den? It was
It was the Michigan National Guard.
yeah, that was a pretty crazy setup. It
That's a
was
cool
like a
spot.
little,
I like going there.
yeah, it was but you wouldn't think, like, you look at it from the outside and you're like, and then you go in and it's like, all decked out and bunkered out. So those guys were pretty cool. We would always go down there. um I would have to end up helping them with their comms too. So that became a regular thing. And then that damn Zanger Boucher draw, man. That I think that was the area that claimed that got Parton and
Yeah, that's where Stack got
and
shot, where we lost Parton, and a bunch of other guys from HST.
yeah. So I don't think I drove through it too many times, but the few times I did, I remember we took decent contact. So there was one where the one that stuck with me was I was 2 days from flying home, and Captain Portis Uh, he wants to, he wants to tag along again like he normally does. And I'm like, all right, so what are you telling me for? Like the command, their team has a gunner. Like you don't need me. Uh, I got 2 days to go, and we go through Zangerboshe drill, and it was Chamberlain. Chamberlain's truck. Uh, Chamberlain was the driver. Lieutenant Harpalani was the TC, and then I think the rear of the truck, including the gunner, was the new unit. And we get we get near the bottleneck, and Chamberlain's truck just it the ground erupts, and there's a giant bubble, and his truck just gets picked up and like dropped like 10 feet over. And it was weird because I had the headset on, but you know how you could switch it and like you could hear outside, and because nobody was talking inside the truck, it was like it went off and then time just froze, like. And uh, I don't see any doors moving or opening. I don't. The gunner had dropped, so at this point, I'm like, I just I just seen him like kind of go up like that and then go down, and the 50 cal was sticking out of the turret because it got blown. It blew up out of the mount and then landed on him. So I don't know if it um, knocked him out. I think it did break his arms though. Um, Maybe he was holding onto it when the blast happened, and I don't know, shockwave. But it seemed like I said, time froze and nobody was moving. Um, but then I started hearing, um, I didn't know who it was at the time. All I heard was like screaming, and just like raw, just yelling, like, and I didn't know who it was, but I knew Chamberlain was in there. And Chamberlain was just oh man, if an all around good dude.
Yeah.
Chamberlain was that guy. I still look for him to this day. I don't think he's on social media or anything, but if he ever sees this, man, I hope you're doing well. Um, he uh he gets out of the driver's side, and then he's I think he makes his way over, um, and drops in the actual the trench that the IED made. And then I don't know if he pulled out Harpalani or if he got the door open or something. I was shooting the 50 cal at this time, and I uh, I was shooting at a few different places. There was a house on a ledge, and then I heard a round fly over me, but it sounded like it came from across the river, where we normally take contact from. And so I turned around and started shooting back that way. And I think at one point I was like the only one shooting, and I didn't know why. And I really didn't care until they were out of the danger zone either. So um, at one point, Captain Portis was, or yeah, Portis, he was he yelled to stop shooting the 50 cal. So I pick up my little ass M4 and I start shooting my M4, and then he was like, why are you shooting your M4? And then so I charged the 50 cal again. I started rocking that, and then um, I went through like I don't know how many rounds. It was ridiculous for one truck. I think it was a combination of being mad, seeing my friend's truck just like possibly roll off a cliff, and being 2 days from making it back. So um, that was a long day. That rest of that day, they got medevac, and then 2 days later, I'm on the bird, starting the journey back home, Fort Carson.
Were you on that first flight to Rip back? Because
I
it
don't
seems
know.
like because we went to Sanger Bochet and cleared it after that with metal detectors looking for IEDs after that. So I was there for at least another 3 weeks, I think.
I couldn't tell you. A lot of it's a blur. I remember I remember one mission where it was like it it was definitely it was still white platoon, but they were across the river and we were taking pop shots from the house. It might have been I think it might have been UN white, red and white. But that was when white platoon they like a squad they threw a grenade in that house and then
Yeah.
rushed in and got that guy with that what
Yeah,
is
me and
it?
Jones were up in 2 truck pulling Overwatch.
Yeah, and I was the commander's gunner at that time, and doing the same thing. And I just remember seeing the little mushroom cloud, you know, hearing the boom, and then the mushroom cloud above the little house, and then because they didn't call it over the radio or anything, you know, that they were gonna go in. I just see, you know, 5 little guys stack up on the house, and then they go in, and then you see a mushroom cloud. It's like, oh shit. And I said, "Hey, sir," they went inside, and there was a fucking explosion. And he was just like, "What?" And I was like, "There's a fucking mushroom cloud over the house they went in," and like there was, it was still like it didn't process. And I don't know, maybe it was just fast for me, but like seeing that, I was like, "Fuck, we just lost 5 guys," you know. And afterwards, something happened with their radios. They just, you know, they all called it and went in. They threw a frag in and then went in there, and it was only like one old guy with a fucking rifle.
Yeah, some ancient ass 100-year-old
Yeah, it
shot
was. It was pretty crazy. So I mean, I'm glad that's all it was, you know. So could have been a lot worse.
So you're coming back. You're coming back, redeploying from Bostic. What was that like?
Um, it was a good feeling, but I think it was just like everybody else at that point. It was just, you know, lucky to make it through that deployment because that happened. What Keating happened not that long after we were there.
Like 5
So I
months,
mean,
like that.
was it 5 months?
5 months for deploying. I think we were only there total like 4. Was there a month to get there?
Yeah, that's what it was. But I didn't know what the hell. Like I didn't know whether, you know, we were gonna be fob security, you know, where they would squeeze us in. And sorry, I got mixed up. um so redeployment from fob Bostic, that was that was nice because I mean we survived. You know, I at that point I was happy just to make it back. Um, you know, because it was a long deployment too. All that stuff had happened, and then just our AO sucked. I mean,
Yeah.
it just seemed like one thing after another. Like,
It never gets any better, dude. That's
yeah, that was the sign. Motto.
never, and it never did. So you get back to Fort Carson. Everybody
Yeah,
kind of gets split up. You're still Black Knight Troop, right?
yeah, I was Black Knight for S6 didn't have any replacements at the time, and they were like, "Hey, we want you off the line," because that was my second deployment with Black Knight, and I was like, "All right," you know, because at this point I really didn't have any shop time. You know, I was just you know, worked on vehicles, you know, the field side of the communications. So I was like, all right, um, you know, start working on the automation side, the computer side, you know, the office side of my job. So I go to S6 after they find a replacement. Um, well, I stayed down there with them for a little bit, train them up, and get them going, and then I'm in S6 for a few months, and then uh, we start we start training up for our third deployment to Afghanistan, and I'm with S6 of the, at this point. So I'm setting up radios in the talk, just doing training, retrans. There's a lot of retrans. So,
What was train up for that third deployment like?
training up for the third deployment was totally like the tempo was serious because of what had happened. It was like once everybody split and parted ways and all that stuff, 4-4, they wanted obviously, to be squared away, and train up was serious. They started implementing different, just different types of training, in and out of the field again, ranges, Pinion Canyon, GRTC again, and then we get orders that we're going to Afghanistan. Everybody goes on leave.
Where'd you deploy?
Afghanistan, I was Finley Shields because I was with HHT at the time, and that's where they were. I was part of the S6 shop, so I did FOB security, FOB communications, camera systems, same type of setup at a headquarters level, So that was my main priority until a few months in, and Bravo Troops commo guy ends up having a meltdown. I don't know who he threatened, but he threatened somebody, so they took his rifle away, and they called down S6 again, and they said they needed a volunteer, and it was almost like instantly everybody looked at me and was like, "Hey, well, you've been down there the last 2 tours," and I think at that point I told everybody to fuck off. I looked them in the face, and I was mad, not because like I was having to go down there again, but it's S6, they were about it until they had to, put the pedal to the metal, and so I went, packed my bags, and probably 24 hours after that, I ended up at Bravo Troops compound. I don't remember what it was called, but my mission there was really to clean up his mess. He didn't have accountability for anything. Radio systems, were not put together right. So I basically had to clean up his stuff and find, everything that he couldn't find. And
anything exciting happen?
As far as when I got there, they had lost T, I believe, from an IED shortly before I got there, and as far as I know, that was it. But as far as comma wise, no. My job was really to just keep their comms going and find accountability for everything, because everything costs so damn much, There were radio systems that were like 9-10 grand, and there were like 52 of them, like this, ridiculous amounts of money that was, it was there, but it just wasn't accounted for. So it was like, where's Waldo, my last deployment with communications equipment.
So you ripped back from that one. How much time do you have left in the Army?
We got back December, I want to say it was maybe December 24th or December 23rd, right before Christmas. So it was like, it was a blessing. But I had maybe 6 months left to decide whether or not I wanted to stay in or get out. And I had 3 deployments, and they were, I consider myself to be, lucky to make it through those and, still have everything I have. So I called it after that. Plus, I was coming up on my RCP, my retention control point. I had to be an E5, or they wouldn't, they didn't want me to reenlist, or you couldn't reenlist just because standards. Communications points were always at 7, I want to say 798 or 788. So like I would always miss points, and after 3 deployments, I was like, you know what, 3 strikes, I'm out. I might not make it back the next one.
So, what was getting out of the Army like?
It was it, it was exciting, but yet it was scary, At this point, I had been in 10 years, and that's generally the halfway point. So, people generally decide to stay in forever at that point. They go in deaf. The option for reserves came up, and I tried that. I said, all right, let me see if I can finish out, my time with the reserves. And I ended up going to an engineer unit. And I think I did a year and 6 months there, because their contracts are weird. Like they really, when you come, at least the contract that I got coming from active duty, it was like you can test the waters for a year, and then after that, you can decide if you want to, extend your contract. So that's what I did. I did a temporary thing to see if I liked it, and then it wasn't for me going from 361 to, reserve unit. So we called it after that. I had done a total of 10 active years and 3 reserve years.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.